I'm Isabel Dichiara. I'm the executive director of the Westchester County Bar Association in New York. We are the county immediately north of New York City. So you go Bronx, you go Westchester. I have been with the bar now for about 3.5 years. Prior to that, I have a marketing, community relations background and fundraising, including an arts organization, and that kind of ties back my undergrad. Somewhere along the way, I thought I was going to be Scorsese, and I went to film school, and I have done absolutely zero with my film school other than figure out how to, like, do graphic design projects and produce videos during COVID times for the bar. So it's come in handy 20 something years later.
Holy moly. So who was there before you?
Luis Rivera for a little while.
Oh,
We
wow,
had a
yeah.
bit of a door for a while.
Mm,
Was unsettled, I will say,
yes,
for a number
yes,
of years.
yes. I think that's a good way to put it. So, so, so you've applied for local director.
hmm
So, so what do you know of what a local bar director would do?
I can. I'll go with what I think. How's that?
Yes.
Um, so as one of the things as a relatively smaller bar, we grew by about 125 members in 20, which was kind of insanity. We sit between like the 16 and 1700 range right now. And one of the things that, for me personally, I find frustrating is going to a lot of events with folks who are state, who are mandated, who are huge. And as somebody who's like smaller, not standalone, I have two staff now. So on the smaller side, we have a lot of different needs. And I would hope that that's kind of what we bring up is that, I'm still a somewhat metro area, but we're not a huge organization. And that you'd bring, what impacts you on a day-to-day basis when you don't have 14 staff or a state and you're not, you're trying to be all things to a lot of people with not so many resources. And that opinion and that thought process.
Awesome. So Liz Neely with Nebraska Bar. Liz, do you have thoughts or questions you want to share?
Sure. Thanks for joining us today. Yeah. I guess my first question for you is tell us a little bit about what you think Navi's doing well and areas you think we could be even stronger and kind of what you see as kind of our path forward.
It's a good one. I've before the bar, I was with another professional association, and I've always kind of felt that, especially in our kind of a role, it's really important to find a place where there's somebody like you. Because for a lot of us, there isn't anybody like us. My crew of executive directors in New York, we kind of try to hang together a little bit. We have more in common than we don't. And with NABI, I think that there are a lot of opportunities to find that, and that's what's important. Like I went to BLI as an executive director who'd been in place for 10 weeks. So I could barely tie my shoes, but at least getting there, I was like, oh, I'm not alone. That's good. And I think finding that in NABI is really important. I don't know that it's always communicated really well because I know I talk to some of my peers locally in New York, and they're like, oh, I was thinking about doing that, but I don't know. And I don't know that value necessarily gets communicated across the board. And I do think that people get hung up on cost. And we all, you got to make a buck. I still sit there on my bar going, okay, I want you to renew your membership, and I want you to pay for this, and I want you to pay for that. But especially in a smaller organization, a lot of what we do isn't necessarily on the bar; it's on us personally. And I think trying to find that balance of the free programs that NABI offered, like the pandemic town halls, were phenomenal. And any of those support programs that kind of let you see something or think of something that maybe, I pulled ideas from people to implement for us that were some of the things that I now get these great props a year later over. It's great you found this. And I'm like, yeah, it wasn't my idea, but that's okay. And I think that stuff is really good, but trying to find that balance is hard. And to make it programming that is cost effective and worth the money for people that they want to jump in. And I do think that those pieces are there. It's just a matter of maybe communicating it better and trying to find the middle ground for folks that they can actually participate within their budget and not feel like they're losing out on something because they can't necessarily fund it in the same way.
Great, thank you.
Barry Kohler from Tennessee Bar.
Hi, Isabel. Nice to meet you.
You
I don't
too.
think we've met in person before, so that's good. I know as a local bar director, you wear lots of hats and have to kind of be an expert on a lot of different things, but there's probably also most bar executives do have one area that's maybe their strength, administration, some in policy, some in communication, some other things. What strength would you bring to the NABI board if you were named to this position?
I think it's something I always thought, and I think I've kind of proven it to myself in the last year. I think all of us have at least I do at times have that imposter syndrome fear that like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. But in the last year, especially, I am a really good programming person. I really am. We had done in a really busy year in Westchester, we did 55 programs. 60 was a stretch in a busy year. I counted because my annual meeting is tomorrow that's going to be virtual. We did 163.
Wow.
In 2020 and most of it between April and December. And I let go a staff person. I furloughed somebody in May who was my events person, and then we termed her position in August. So I absorbed, anything that was events and programming from her, and then pushed membership stuff to my other two staff to try and get some balance. But like I swung the better part of 140 programs in a year, mostly by myself, mostly without my committees and sections who couldn't get out of their own way to give me things, developed CLEs. Like I pulled a lot of stuff, and that grew our membership. So I have to put that in my corner. And I will put communications to a certain extent because New York, I don't know what everybody else's state was like. The courts were sending us 3, 4, 5 emails a day with this changed, that changed. Here's a change to trials. Here's a change to systems. And we came up, I sat with my comms person who was brand new. She started in January, and figured out a plan for how to get all of that information out to the membership as it came in and then catalog it so that if folks missed it or got overwhelmed, they would know where to go to get back to it. So trying to kind of synthesize and get those systems in place was great. And it was a great challenge. I think it was something that I kind of missed, but those two together, I think, are kind of the bigger places that I can come in and bring something.
Great, thank you.
Dennis Archer from the Illinois Bar.
Hi.
Hi, Isabel. Never met. Thank you for wanting to be on the board, most of all. And my question is kind of, if you were assigned as my mentor, new member to NABI, what kind of advice would you give me on how to take advantage of being a new member in NABI?
Well, see, that's a good one because somehow I don't know how I ended up as a docent this year, which was kind of fun. One came in an email and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." I sometimes still think like I said, like, "Oh, well, I'm kind of new. I don't know if I have my training wheels off." But the way I kind of approached it was, I want to see where you're coming from because a lot of us have, did you set out that you wanted to be a bar executive director? I don't know. So where did you come from? How did you land here? And try and find a way that I can give you a little bit of support. And for NABI, what I've encouraged my person this year is take advantage of everything that you can, everything that's within your budget, everything that makes sense for you from a timing perspective. I look at every program that comes through and see, can I fit? Can I not fit? Does it make sense for me? And then kind of do a quick eval and utilize any of the tools that are there, from going into post a question and look at the answers. Maybe it's a question you never thought of, but there's an answer that might help you. I know those always fascinate me, that I get the digest, because I can't stand all the messages coming in. I just have too much volume. And I look at the digest real quick and I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. That's something I probably need to put on my long-term list of things to do. And it's just trying to allot a little bit of time to take advantage of anything that makes sense for you. And right now, with everything being virtual, there's a lot more opportunity for that. I know I was restricted on budget, that I couldn't travel. It was tough. The one time I got to mid-year, it was because I was on a scholarship, that I got some funding for it, because we didn't have the budget. And with virtual, you have a lot more opportunity to be able to participate. I mean, even things like the meeting and getting into Tracy Demara's session and talking about, she gave me the brilliant idea of, gosh, don't do Zoom on 1 or 2 days a week, because it'll save your sanity. And I'm like, well, I'm stupid. I never thought of that before. So, having that opportunity to find a person and just listen to what other people who are in a similar circumstance have for you. I mean, that's really what I've encouraged Brianna, who I talk to when I check in, is, did you find anything that made sense? Are you struggling with anything? Ask somebody. If it's not me, ask somebody else who might be in the similar situation.
Thank you.
So, Isabel, what committees have you served on, or do you have that you think you've learned from and would bring to NABI?
I ended up, I think, on everything I said, oh, I might be interested in this year somehow. And Rachel did that to me, so that's why she's not going to make eye contact even through the computer. I'm on diversity. I'm on CSE, I think. I couldn't go to the last one because it overlapped with something that, I think, my own board meeting. I'm a docent this year. I think that's it. I think. Diversity, I think, is interesting because it's something we struggle with in our bar. We were very, very laggy on our decisions to do anything related to police brutality, social justice. My board is very fearful of alienating people, and it was a huge struggle to get anything up and running. We finally took a program up in December, and my diversity committee has some great ideas, but they keep getting, oh, maybe something a little lighter. So I like being a part of that one because I like to see what's there. I don't always know that, and it's a place I feel like I can have an idea that even in my own bar they kind of squelch me down, but at least I can kind of discuss some thoughts or maybe some other ways to approach things. So I like that one. The CSE one, we have met once, twice, and then obviously I couldn't do the last one. So I think it's interesting because it's something that I'm interested in participating in. And I like the docent program. I think that's kind of cool. I wish it had been there for me when I was walking around mid-year, like not knowing anybody except Kevin and Ryan because he's from New York, and just kind of wandering. So I think that's kind of cool, especially for folks who are new to bars, who may not know culture or even language, because there's terms that I sat at BLI going, I don't even know what that means, and I felt like a dope, but it's helpful.
True. That's really true. So when you serve on an Abbey board, and I'm sure Kevin's probably talked to you about this, typically we would have 4 in-person meetings a year. One's with whatever the mid-year was or will be, the annual meeting, and 2 others. The 2 others, the NABI budget typically would pay for. The other 2, because we're expected to support those meetings, that we would send ourselves. Is your bar prepared for that? Are they?
Probably not, but I don't think I would call it a hindrance. I think they would like to, I might not be able to get all of it, but I might be able to get part of it because I think they'd like to support me. I think they recognized that I've joked with my current president, who took office in May of last year. So she's been my virtual president. Every so often I look at her and go, how do you think it would have gone if I wasn't here? just because I want them to, I want a little, like, when you thank everybody else and you forget the staff, I just kind of every so often try to pull that out of them. I'm like, how do you think that you would have done? They're like, ugh. So, I think I could probably get some support. And if not, we'd make it work.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you would have us know or want the members to know about you, about your interest, about what you'd bring to NABI?
I don't even know. I don't even know. I was the unfortunate person in my bar. We do a member spotlight every magazine. We were printing up until April of last year. And I was the unfortunate person who caught the March issue. I think I was the March. I might have been the April. Either way, it's really bad because we used to joke. We have jokes in my family. My brother is a international consultant, and he used to like zip away in a town car like in the dead of night, and he was a spy. So he went to the Naval Academy. We've always said he's the family spy. But my job in the family is that if there's a crisis, I figure out the 14 plans that we might need to implement so that we can have the one person. So I'm the family contingency planner. And I made a crack in my member spotlight about being the contingency planner. And it happened that the magazine was published like either right before or right as the pandemic started. And I'm like, really? Like the worst joke with the worst timing. So that's kind of, that's how I think. I'm like, all right, you gave me the problem. There's 47,000 different directions to go. What are the ones we think we can do? What do we need? So that when you tell me, here's where we are, and this is the variable, that I can turn to that one and go, okay, we're fine. So I think that's, it's my personality quirk that drives my family and my staff both nuts, and that they love because they know that I won't leave them hanging.
There you go. Well, we really appreciate that you were willing to share your time and your interest, because we do know what it's like to be you to some degree. So thank you.